this toddy. So back then, they made punches, like alcoholic punches. So it was like a mix of a bunch of stuff in like a big batch, and it was like right before cocktails like became all the rage, where it was like individual. Um, and they found an old barrel in like a building that had been owned by the family, and they sent it off for like scientific uh like reading so that they could figure out what was in the recipe of the family's toddy, and they figured it out. They had to like improvise some things because it wasn't like it was 100% accurate. But then they released one of the first things they released was this thing called the Memphis toddy. So it's like, think of like a hot toddy where it's like
Oh yeah.
citrus, like orange, lemon, some sort of citrus, some sort of like spices, like a little bit of
Yep.
cloves or star anise or those
Yep.
kind of range of spices. And
Mm-hmm.
gosh, it's so good.
Was it so
Every
good?
time and then they had what I didn't realize is most whiskey and bourbon is distilled in Indiana or like elsewhere. Like Indiana's a big hub, and then like parts of Kentucky, and then they'll
I thought it was mostly Kentucky.
yes and no, but there's just companies that don't have a label. They'll provide like straight from the still, and
Oh
then
yeah.
there's some that will barrel it, and so they
Yeah.
kind of come in. So that Old Dominic, this was like 2 years ago, they released their own bourbon that um, they had distilled and figured out, and it was so good. But it was the first time that someone had like came up with the recipe and in Memphis since before prohibition, because everything else
Oh wow.
in Memphis had been imported from parts of Kentucky or Indiana. So
Yeah.
it was kind of a cool. But that bourbon was so good, and it was like $40 for the bottle, and it just tasted much higher. So if I'm ever
Nice.
back in Memphis, I'm gonna hit them up
That's great.
because it
It's
was
actually
such a good. It was like 40% alcohol, but it tasted like closer to like a 50% alcohol, and then it was just smooth and caramely, and it was just like they
awesome.
had perfected it.
I only learned in recent years that it's actually pretty common to buy like whiskey in bulk
Yeah.
for most places from those big distillers. Like I think Buffalo Trace is one of them.
Mm.
Actually, it might be Buffalo Trace that owns like the big one, and they just sell this stuff in bulk. And then what the smaller distilleries usually do is just mix it with something else
Right.
and then call it their own blend. But that's actually super common and
Yep.
not frowned upon at all. And you would think it might be like, oh, you didn't actually make this,
Yeah.
but it's a super common thing.
Yeah. Well,
So,
like Jim Gaffigan's Father Time bourbon,
same
like
thing.
he's same thing. Yeah, they went on a tour of like Kentucky to with his brothers. So it was like an excuse. He's like, I'm not gonna make any money off of this, but he's
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna go sample some, bourbon and whiskey with my brothers, and we'll make it a thing. And
so
and
good.
then now he's like on batch 3 or whatever. So
Yeah.
because you don't make a lot of money up front because there's like so much cost up front. So I think you start making money the longer you start, releasing it. So,
Yep. Yep.
but I mean, each batch is like something a little bit different. They find a different barrel or whatever, and they taste it, and then they like it, and then it goes into, the next batch or whatever.
Super cool.
And he's like completely open about it.
Well, speaking of, cheers. Thanks for being on.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we haven't had whiskey on the pod yet, so
Well, there you go.
that's pretty fun. This is how it should be. Exactly.
I agree.
What's this t-shirt you have?
Invisible Creature. So it's this studio. Well, they were Seattle based. Now they're in Phoenix, but um, it's this brother Don and Ryan Clark, and they formed almost 20 years ago now. But they did a lot of old. They had a mix of like music and like big name clients, and so they did like the Foo Fighters, Echo, uh, Chambers and Silence or whatever, that album,
Oh, no
the
kidding.
artwork for that. They've like won
Sweet.
Grammys and for all their creative work. But then Don Clark actually started doing like illustration for children and children's books. And I mean, yeah, so they
Huh.
do a bunch of big name stuff. And this was a release. They did a Friends of IC or Friends of Invisible Creature. And so they would partner with some other artist and they, the artist would do the artwork, but they had their mascot as a mummy. So it was like fair game to like use their mascot and
Yeah.
kind of work it in your style. So they did pre-orders and then got this. So this is a nod to Where the Wild Things Are, but
Oh, I see it.
with the mummy. Um, and I want to say it's like is it High Noon is like the moniker of the guy that did the artwork. So
Oh, okay.
I,
So, do you have a lot of agencies that you follow like on a regular basis?
oh, I have for years.
Like that you
Yes.
always read their newsletter or something like that? Who are they?
So Invisible Creature's big. I mean, for one, Don Clark was the one that planted in my head that like, oh, you could start out in design and then work your way into children's illustration, you know. So that was big.
Yeah,
I've been
that's
following them for
not
like 20
like
plus years.
yeah.
And then I mean there's so many talented folks and then I'm fortunate to like have really good friends that are really talented too. So but Invisible Creatures big. I really like Lincoln Design Company out of
Mm.
Vancouver, Washington, or Portland, Oregon area. Fortunate to chat with those guys. We've spoken at the same conference, and but they're doing like crazy cool stuff, like for Hot Wheels and like
Yeah,
the
you
Mountain
showed me
Dew
something that
tour.
they
Yeah,
did. Mountain Dew, that was it.
yeah. So they have a cool
Sweet.
studio with a bunch of folks working there, and then they're yeah stuff like the 40th anniversary of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles logo, like officially, and they do like style guides for big name companies and
Yeah.
properties and a lot of branding, but they're super cool. Let's see here, Hoodspa Design. They're out of Southern California, and it's this. It was started by these two sisters, Jamie, Jen and Amy. I was trying to say it at the same time, Jen and
Jamie.
Amy, Jen and
Maybe
Amy
they go by
Hood.
that. If not, they
I
should.
met them like almost 10 years ago, but they're like amazing. They've done a lot of logos for like movies. Like a lot of times they don't make the final cut, but they show some really cool process for like Encanto or like
Yeah.
big name movies, and then they do their own. They have their own series of fonts, and then they do other big name clients. And then another and they're friends out in Memphis. Pretty useful company. They're started by Allie and Claire, and they've done murals, they do branding, they've won like some national Addy awards for so they're top notch. So um I mean I could go on and I'm feel bad. I've probably left out a bunch of people, but
Yeah.
it's a smaller community and I think like I've gone for the last 10 years I've gone to like like two or three conferences a year and just try to get connected nationally.
Yeah.
Um so it's super helpful to know those folks too and like just because you can pick their brain about certain things and chat with them and then it makes it feel so much more achievable that I can do it, because
Yeah.
you look at it from a distance and you're like, oh my gosh, like I mean there's
Yeah.
things that they will do that I will never do like on a talent level,
Yeah.
but it makes it feel like the crazy thing that I want to do doesn't feel so crazy.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you remember the first one that sort of got you kicked off in the world of illustration and design? Like the first agency you recognized or person you met or
I think the first one that I recognized was Invisible Creature. And so I mean, this was like early days, like 2003, 2004. So we were like in the first era of blogs. And so they had like a design blog that they would,
oh, nice.
that they
The
would,
RSS feed.
yeah. So they had like a blog and they would post to it. And so it was just like, oh my gosh, you can see somebody working now, their process and like the cool work that they're working on now. Like it was just like
Yeah.
mind blowing back then. And then, yeah, early days of social media, I got connected with a lot of folks like 2011, just started getting more connected. And it wasn't until about 2015 that I started traveling to different places, and then been fortunate to meet a lot of people that I made connections with online. So some of my like really good friends, like just we met online and
That's
you know,
cool.
then met up in person, and then we've, hang out at some of the same places or same conferences. And
It's always interesting when those are just regular folks,
oh
and you're
yeah.
like, "Whoa, I've been following you online forever," and you're just a regular guy, though. They're totally down to talk usually, if they got
Yeah.
the time, you
Yeah,
know?
huge. And I think one of the first people I met, um, as like a children's illustrator was Rob McClurkin, and he had some really cool artwork. And then I remember I was still working a day job, and with the hopes of like going out on my own. And then no, that was even before then. That was probably 2009, and I had been following 2009, 2010. I'd been following Rob's work a little bit. And then there was a project where they needed some other illustration help. Like, so Rob would do the sketches, and then they were trying to get like a team to like take his sketches to like final art.
Hmm,
And then I remember being on a call, and I had just wrapped up like going back to school, and I had a young family, and I was like, I just got a degree, and I'm like, I can't work a full-time job and do this to my young family. So I passed on it, and I was like, dang it, you blew your chance to meet Rob McClurkin. And then we get connected like a year or two later, and he's like one of my best friends. We're like text and call, and I see
yep,
him about once a year. So
that's
it's
awesome.
just so funny because he is prolific and just, you know, top notch children's illustrator, at that top tier. And I mean, I've learned a lot from him, and and we, you know, chat pretty regularly. So it
That's
is
cool.
interesting when that doesn't happen most of the time, but when it does, it's like, oh, okay, these are real people. And then
Just a regular guy. Yep,
I'm learning from him, he's learning from me, and we're chatting and just and yeah. So it's I think early on I realized, they're just people, and don't, you can go up and talk to them. Not everything's going to work out, but
yeah,
it's fun to uh make a lot of those connections.
yeah, super cool. So how's your portfolio going? You're working on that currently. For those that don't know, work in progress, right?
Yeah, work in progress.
Updating it.
I have not updated my portfolio, and probably like really updated in like 3 or 4 years, maybe five.
Yeah. I
So,
was just there recently till we
yeah,
redid it. I was like, this is old now.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, it's amazing how fast. I'm trying to capture a lot more of like the thinking and behind what I do, because that's how I stand out, is through like the strategy. So I'm trying to do the extra work. And then yeah, so my plan is to have like a video capabilities reel that's maybe 40 seconds. I'm like
Yeah.
probably about halfway through like the actual work, and then gonna do some like make it a little personal for just a little introduction and some video shots.
Yeah.
And then that's phase one. Phase two, I'm gonna do the take all those assets that I just made, and then make them make a couple of two or three case studies that make sense around art direction or strategic thinking or conceptual work. Or I need to do one on I really need to do a post on the Lego Little Golden Books that I worked on, just
Oh yeah.
because
Those are awesome.
it's career defining for
Those are so
me.
awesome.
And there's
Yeah.
how I had to figure that out is I think interesting, and every time I tell other folks about it, they find it interesting too, especially if they're like illustrators or in the creative world.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's that story?
The Lego,
Yeah. How you figured that situation out?
um, like how I got the gig or how I figured it out.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned that it was an interesting process,
It was
like
an
at the
interesting
beginning.
process. So like I couldn't, well, one, I had done a lot of like mailing promotion and online promotion around these little short stories called bite-sized books, and they were my love letter to Little Golden Books. And I'm a huge fan of Little Golden
You're a
Books.
collector.
And I'm a collector. I have like 200 plus vintage books, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
I've been cut off multiple times from my wife. Like, you cannot buy anymore.
It's a
Um,
good, I mean, books is a good problem to
yeah, I
have.
know. They're so
It's
inspiring.
not
And
booze.
so I got the gig through like multiple promotions, and the bite-sized books were really my love letter to Little Golden Books, and I never thought in a million years that I would actually get to work on one, and I about fell out of my chair in my office at home when I got the read the email that it was Lego Pirates Little Golden Book, and that was, like, my favorite
You were like, "What is this
theme. I
real?"
remember when I was, like, a kid, they came out in, like, 1989. It was, like, a game changer for Lego, and it was like, "Oh my gosh, there's, like, a monkey, and there's, like, guns and boats," and it
Yeah.
was like they were inventing, like, new pieces and stuff that hadn't existed before, and so it just, like, blew my little seven-year-old brain. Like,
Yeah. What?
so I couldn't believe that I got that, and then the reality set in, like, "Oh, no. I could ruin 2 properties that I care about and millions of other people care about
Uh-oh.
in 1 book."
Wait, this is a lot of responsibility
I
now
know.
all of a sudden.
And so and then I have thought, like, probably, like, 5 to 7 illustrators that should have gotten the job, and I'm like, "No, they asked you, and you love this property, you love Lego Pirates, what's interesting to it about you?" And then trying to bring these, so it's like you have plastic minifigs, which are the, like, the people or the figures, and Lego's really particular on how those should be illustrated, and there's, like, a range of motion that they can't exceed, and there's a
Yep.
lot of rules. But, what I was finding is that when I followed the rules, they weren't expressive, they didn't feel like they came to life, so you need it to feel like it's a storybook version of Lego, so you need to make it feel like a real character in a real world come to life, and so that was very challenging. It wasn't until I ended up illustrating 5 books, and it wasn't until, like, the 3rd book that I really just said, "Screw it. I'm just gonna look at references like Spider-Man or a ballerina or somebody that has really, like, visually expressive poses, and then I don't care if it follows the rules, I get a break out of my brain, that so then I could dial it back to get it in."
Because they still want it in that sort of box.
Yeah. So the eyes,
Oh,
like
you
the
were I get it. You were having trouble kind of being as creative as you wanted to be with the motion because of the rules, so you
right,
reverse engineered it kind of.
right. I just
Yeah.
said, "Screw it, I'm gonna have the arm expend way beyond what it's supposed to," and
Mm,
or I'm
yeah.
gonna have the eyes had to stay, like, perfect, like, circles or ovals, and then, like, if you look at a lot of art, eyes move, like, especially, like, in animation or anything, like, there's, like, a squash and stretch to the eyeballs. So that was interesting, and so you have, like, the expressive characters, and then you have another layer of this architect you almost have to think, you know, with, like, an architectural mind because it has to be, like, angled and,
Yep.
in the right perspective of, like, any of the sets or props or, um, a lot of the background elements. And then you have another layer of it being a little golden book, which has this, like, gouache painterly whimsical style.
Mm.
And so it took me a while to figure that out, to even describe it in that form, because everything I was doing, like, the characters were on model, but they were stiff, and then they just felt like a plastic toy that I just illustrated. So
Did you have to go back and forth with the client on that to figure it out, or did you do enough research and iterations on your own,
yeah, I think I did
following the
enough on
rules
my own
somehow?
up front, but then there was some back and forth. Like, I always got comments, and the budget isn't high for a children's book, especially little golden books. And so I'm having to do so many pages a day. And so, like, I'm having to blow through it, and I want to make sure the pose is right. But then I would always get, like, "Oh, the torso needs to be a little thicker, or the leg can't bend that much." And so then I would have
Oh,
to dial it back. But I think I got it like 85% of the way there up front through all the research, because they're pretty hands off. The publisher can be pretty hands off, like, once they've made a decision to hire you, because they've put so much thought and effort, and they have a lot of internal pitching to, like, make sure they get the right illustrator before they make an offer. And so they had more confidence in me probably than I had in me at the time. But, you
yeah.
know, I
I was
think
gonna
I thought
say.
through it enough to where, and I would get feedback every time, not a lot, but enough to, like, steer it in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, especially with, like, licensed work, I've talked with other friends who have done licensed work where, it's like I'm working with a publisher who then is working with Lego or you're working with Crayola or whoever the licensor is.
Yeah,
And so
I was gonna
those are
say.
always interesting because the timeline for the book is the same. So that means, and the licensor always takes forever to get back because it's not a priority to them. And so they fit it into their schedule and then get back to you.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting process.
So, what's your favorite one that you've ever been on? Not your own work, but your favorite project for a
Period.
client? Yeah, or something from your top 3.
Top. I mean, the Lego has to be the top three right now. Childhood dream, and I did multiple. I mean, I was the Lego Little Golden Books illustrator until like they moved on from that publisher. So it was probably the most challenging project I've ever worked on in like 20 plus years, but and there were times where might have been cursing and like just
Yeah,
frustrated with, you know, not being able to do what I wanted to do or some of the process that it takes. But so it wasn't easy by any stretch, but it's definitely the most satisfying and rewarding. And then I think in the top three is selling a book to Scholastic that I wrote and illustrated called Ray's Big Day. And that came out
oh,
a
yeah,
little over a year ago.
that
So I
one's
think
pretty
that's
cool.
rewarding because it's something, it started out as one of those little short stories in those bite-sized books that I was talking about, but it was really just a ray of light who went out like flying through the solar system, and there really wasn't, it wasn't a story. It was just, a series of events, and a story is a series of events leading up to an ultimate conclusion where there's a character arc and clear three acts and all that. So I think a lot of it was just I sold it to probably the perfect, I shouldn't say my agent and I sold it together to the only publisher that was interested, which was Scholastic, and it couldn't have been a more perfect publisher for,
Really?
because it was nonfiction. It was, there's a space. It was a story, but there was a backdrop of space and the speed of light, and
Yeah.
trying to distill that down to like a 5-year-old
Yep.
is a
Yep.
challenge. But I mean, I started out as a story, and then it was sort of my way to find an agent. So I put a book dummy together, which is you write the whole story, put the whole manuscript together, and then you work out all the sketches for the full 32 pages, and then you illustrate like like 4 pages generally. I mean, I ended up illustrating like 10 just because it was a unique book. Like, how do you make the darkness of space like look interesting and colorful throughout the whole book? So
Yeah.
I wanted to pitch it in a way that made sense for that content. But um, yeah, I found an agent through that process. Um, and there was a whole process of pitching and to publishers, and so it was sort of one of those things that this being an author and an illustrator is not for the faint of heart because there's just
Dude.
mostly silence. You put a lot of things out there and you don't hear back. And then thankfully, when you have an agent, they'll follow up, and then you can hear like a lot of times, nope, this isn't for us, but you don't know why. So
Dude.
occasionally you get no's. Now, if an editor is interested in it, they will give you feedback. And so it's kind of like what my friend calls like a champagne rejection. It's like they really believe in you, but they just don't want to buy this book now.
It's just not as is, maybe?
Maybe not as is. So they're either interested in acquiring it, or if you get notes, and or they really believe in you and they want to give you some feedback. And so I come from
Dude.
like, I started in the in-house, creative team inside of a marketing department. And there's a lot of like, oh, that's great. And you get a lot of feedback. And I mean, especially as like a art director and designer too, like all you get is feedback all the time.
Oh, I'm sure. From
And so
everyone.
like, and so then when you shift from that to publishing, and there's like, it's just like, feels like throwing everything
You're
into a black
begging for
hole.
feedback.
You're begging for feedback, something, anything. I want to be better, I promise.
Dude, I wanna do whatever you want me to do so that you'll publish this book. I've got a friend who's like, he's in the hundreds in terms of like submitting his book
Yep.
to try to get published, and he just doesn't get feedback most of the time. Every once in a while, he gets something light, but it sounds like a grind.
It can be a grind. And so like the fact that sold that book, and then it came out, um, is huge just because I think it just took a lot of resilience and, like, a lot of times where I'm, like, feeling like I'm taking crazy pills, like, "What am I even doing here?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then going like, "No, I believe in this book enough to at least keep going," and then so then that all hard work paid off, and then as it turns out, like a year ago, I was like, "Oh, I've got, you know, the Raised Big Day book that I wrote and illustrated, the last Lego book came out," and I was going to, like, speaking at a couple of conferences last year. I was did like book signings and some events and things, and it was just like, "Oh man, this is great." And then it's been hard to sell the next book. I've got like a couple of book dummies that are just, not hitting. I mean, I think they're really good concepts, but they're just like getting a lot of like within publishing, it's tough because they like on one of the books I'm working on, they're like, "Oh, we have a similar book." And then I looked it up and it was like kind of, but not 100%, but I realized that I'm like dead to that publisher, So there's
Yeah.
things outside of your control all the time that like, "Oh, we already have a, you know, animals speak book, or we already have this
Yeah.
kind of thing in our catalog, or the industry's shifted and we're now looking for humorous books, not like, weird and heartfelt books. So
Yeah.
it's uh it's something that you kind of have to stay on top of and know where the industry's at in general, but then it's also like, what do I bring to the table? Like, how do I create something that's uniquely me, because you don't want to go after copying trends, because especially in publishing, because by the time you can
It's
sell a
probably
book,
over
that
by the
trend the
time
trend it takes like
it's probably
anywhere
done.
from 2 to 3 to 5 years, it's on average 3 years, to get from the start of the manuscript through like selling and being published.
Jeez.
And that's
That's
if
so
you're
long.
if that's if you're lucky,
You're
not
gonna
lucky, fortunate that everything lined up.
yeah.
And so they're already moving on from whatever was hot or whatever. So you're trying to like, especially as it's different when like I'm working on design and I'm creating for somebody else, but for stuff that I'm creating as an author and an illustrator that's uniquely mine, it needs to be my voice, because
Yeah.
only you can create what only you can create. And anytime I've tried to like, oh, let me lean into this, it just doesn't feel right. So,
Yeah. Following the
and that
trends.
takes a lot of courage to like lean into who you are. and
For sure.
and uh there's always something human and vulnerable about what you're working on too. So that takes some courage too. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is a little piece of me that I'm getting out into the world. And
Yeah.
so it takes a lot of courage to like write that and then just keep going. So yeah, I'm in a weird spot with that right now, but I have some good opportunities to pitch some stories. So I'm trying to lean into that excitement right now. So
Well, that glow in the dark concept is like that's killer. And I don't get why people aren't eating that up.
so
Maybe you
let's
can
let's back up.
why don't we let's talk about that for a second
So
because
I had this concept of bioluminescent animals.
yeah.
And I'm always trying to bring in an angle that's like builds like fun, but also takes like one topic in like science or our world of like, this is so cool, and that it gets kids excited and it builds like a sense of wonder and curiosity,
Yeah.
all with like a fun
This
concept.
one
And
does that. I'll tell
yeah,
you
so
that, folks. You
it's about
haven't seen it, but you will.
maybe. Um, so I wanted to use custom typography around these animals that to show what they're saying with the light. So they're trying to communicate to one another. So it's like either saying that they're poisonous to other animals, or sometimes they're trying to attract food like an anglerfish.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and the light is almost hypnotizing. And then some use, especially fish, use it to like camouflage, because fish like way down in the ocean, it's only like blue light is light that stretches the farthest, so they can like
Oh,
glow
okay.
red, and the other animals can't see red, so they sort of like hide in
Oh.
plain sight. And so there's all these tricks that they do, and then I wanted to use glow in the dark ink to reveal what they were saying, and so, 1, that's expensive, and 2, it's sort of a tough book to, like, read something and then shine, like, a light on, and, so I think they would be cool posters or something would be cool with that,
Yeah.
where it reveals what they're saying. It may not be a book per se, or I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't want to give all my ideas away, but
Yeah, don't do that. Just tease it a
but
bit.
that one had a pretty hard rejection recently, so I'm not sure uh if that'll get picked up or
That's dumb.
what form it'll, I mean, it doesn't have to be a book, it's a concept, so what form that'll take. But you're you sort of like go into this knowing that nothing's guaranteed, but you do it anyway, and then you sort of,
Yeah.
I've just fully believed, like, you have to do everything that's in your power to act. You have agency in this world, but at the same time, you have to let go of the results. So you have to work as smart, share,
Yeah.
work for me, like develop strategic projects or things that you want to, that you would like to see in the world, and um try to share it with all the right people, and try to, or create it yourself, or go the distance of what only you can do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know you can only control what you can control, and then you sort of have to let go of the results.
I've seen people struggle with that,
Yeah.
where they're really, really passionate about something or an idea or a concept or a business, and they go after it for a long time and it doesn't work. And then, I agree that you need to go the extra mile if you're really passionate about it. Only you can make that thing happen. If it's in your head, go for it. Um, there's a book. What's the name of the book? I gave my niece a book and I'm like, what do you do with an idea?
Oh, yeah.
And she says, "You change the world." She actually remembers the line, which
Oh.
I'm super proud of her. You know, but at a certain point, sometimes you do have to let go of an idea.
Oh, yeah.
And so, kind of a strange thing if you're in your position, you're pitching and pitching and pitching and sending and sending and sending, and you're like, well, when is the signal saying
Yeah.
I need to move on?
Yeah.
You
I'm
know?
pretty close. I mean, like, I think you throw it out there, and at some point you realize, oh, maybe I need to pivot, and sometimes you do need a palate cleanser to where you can, like, go work on something else and then come
Yeah,
back to it. Like, especially like with books or ideas or concepts. Somebody I know who just, he started getting really hot in his like 50s, and had been working grinding for like 20, 30 years. And, he said, "Oh, if it doesn't work out, it's all inventory." So, like, if something does hit, you're like, "Well, what else you got?" "Well, I've got this, and this,"
I got a
all
lot
stuff.
of good ideas that
Yeah.
no one's been paying attention to
So then it becomes
forever.
inventory for later. So that's kind of my wishful, hopeful thinking, I guess. But honestly, like, even showing some of these ideas to folks in ed tech, or it's like, "Hey, I'm working on this thing." Like, one, it's like, I remember before I started getting into this, like, how, like, sexy it was to be like, "Oh, you're working on a book? Like, how cool is
Yeah,
that?" And, like, now I just know the grind that it is.
yeah.
But
Like, oh,
like, one, it
sorry,
was like,
sorry, you're
"Oh,
working on
that's
a book.
cool." But then they see how your mind thinks, and it's definitely, like, helped me build affinity towards clients and people in ed tech, which I do a lot of work into, like, with children's education and
Yeah,
design and illustration work. So there's some times where, I believe nothing is lost either. That even if, like, I never sell this book, I learned a lot on how to put a book together,
yeah,
and how,
yeah,
what my voice is as an author, um, how I develop concepts, how I pitch it to other people. And I had a near miss. I mean, I almost, had a, yeah, thought I was going to have a book deal, but I didn't. And I found out that, I have a fan of an editor at a publisher, and that's giving me an opportunity to pitch books. So it's
yeah,
sort of, I think it's like one of these, just to get a little philosophical here for a second. um, I think there's this, I don't want to take credit for it. There's this guy called, psychologist called Viktor Frankl, and he had this book, like, Man's Search for Meaning, and so it's a product of its time. It's from, like, he was, like, published in the 1950s, and he was
mm,
a Holocaust survivor. He actually lost his first wife to the Holocaust. Went through, like, the most grueling, horrific
jeez,
things that you can as a human being, and then he And then he was helping people inside the concentration camp that he was at, and then he became a psychologist later. And then it was his second wife who actually cemented his legend of like his thinking. But his book, he had a bunch of books. One of them was Man's Search for Meaning, and so in it, it's you know really we're after our not just men, but everybody is searching for some sort of meaning. And then he
Hmm.
was a contemporary of Freud, and Freud was all about, pleasure, and Viktor Frankl was about, we're searching for meaning, and when we don't find it, we settle for pleasure. And I think about that
Oh,
all the
yeah.
time. And he said, in order to have a meaningful life, you need to have at least one person who unconditionally loves you, like no matter what. Could be a partner, spouse, or, parent, or
Yep. Yep.
somebody that loves you unconditionally. You have the second one is you have um a project or a job that, maybe only you can do, that gets you up in the morning to like just keep going. And
A
so it's like,
passion.
yeah, like a passion to
You
keep
gotta have
moving.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third thing is having a redemptive view on the past. And I think about this all the
Oh,
time,
interesting.
where you have like this bad thing happened. And it's not like woo woo thinking. It's this bad thing happened. It sucked. This is why it sucked. But if not for this, I would not have this, learned compassion for somebody else going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Or I was an arrogant idiot during
Yeah.
this time, and it really, like, I got a taste of my own medicine. Or
Yeah.
like real stuff, like not like woo woo. We're, you know, it's real
Yeah.
stuff. And then I find that that is going like, I can't control what happened, but thank God for this. Or I changed, I grew as a human being. Or
Yeah.
this sent me down on a path where this whole thing happened. And I look back on a lot of the events of my life of getting rejection, or all different sort of things where it felt like the worst thing that could have possibly happened in the moment. And then I look back and I'm going like, oh, didn't kill me. I
Yeah.
learned some things that made me a little stronger, a
And
little more
actually,
resilient.
some good things came from it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I have, I am always trying to think, hindsight is always 2020,
Oh,
right?
easy.
And I'm always trying to think about how do we in the moment actually learn to remember that this insanely hard thing we're going through is going to turn into something good,
Yeah.
right? I'm thinking about like the death of my dad when I was young.
Yeah.
We might not have ever moved to Colorado had he not passed away. And that was an incredible move for our family, right?
Mhm.
Same thing happened when my brother-in-law passed away in 2022. For a while, I forgot about it, but then I was like, you got to remember, good things come from the worst things sometimes.
Yeah.
So the philosophical side of it is very true. Is try to remember that hindsight is 2020, and if you can find a way to like focus on it now and
Yeah.
remember good things are going to come from this, even though there's no possible way in the moment to imagine a good thing coming from like a someone passing away suddenly.
Yeah.
It's like good things are going to come from this. We just don't know what they are. Just at
Mhm.
least try to keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Something I've thought about a lot actually.
Yeah. And I
So,
think it's okay to acknowledge that there's still some bad outcomes or bad consequences of it too, and not like just be so pie in the sky that sort of like it's a form of denial, I think,
yeah.
to where you're like, oh, this is great. Like, so it's like holding both things true at the same time of like, this sucked. I'm not going to pretend any otherwise,
Yep.
but there's also this good thing. Cause I think, because otherwise I feel like you lie to yourself, and that's not healthy long term. I know a lot of people that have like told themselves a lie long enough till they believe it is truth,
Yep.
and I'm guilty of that too because I'm human. But like
Yeah.
being aware of that too, like it's okay to hold two things
Yeah.
as true at the same time.
Yep. It's this fine line of needing to like be real about the things you go through and the bad stuff in life
Hmm.
and embrace it for a little bit and be okay with it and learn from it and acknowledge it for sure because
Hmm.
most people just stuff it down
Right.
and then it's worse.
Hmm.
But it's this fine line of acknowledging that thing. And then I think I said this on the last podcast I recorded is Positivity and gratitude are the two things that will really get you far in life, like way far. Like knowing how to look at the future in those two lenses is something I learned from a young age.
Yeah.
So,
There's something I saw recently on The Office that's kind of adjacent to this, where I think is Rainn Wilson is talking to Ed Helms, who, Dwight Schrute and Andy Bernard.
oh
And
yeah,
there's this line that one of my favorite writers, Greg Daniels, that guy's a legend, but he was one of the writers on The Office, and he
yeah,
did a bunch of stuff like Simpsons
he
and
did other stuff too.
King
Greg
of the
Daniels, yeah,
Hill. Yeah, he was
yep.
like writing partners with Conan O'Brien and
Oh
on
yeah,
SNL and stuff like that. So he's got a long,
awesome.
but he's always got like the most human takes on stuff. But there's this like one of the most profound things ever said on The Office called like, "How do you know you're in the good old days while you're in them?" you know? And so it's kind of like that gratitude that you're saying is like, "Oh, there's a lot of good things going on. Let me savor,
Yeah,
you know, the good that's going on, and let me savor the people that I'm around." Because at the
yeah.
end of the day, you wanna be around good people, and that's what
Hmm.
you're gonna like, that's what I remember from 20 years ago. It's not like necessarily projects or work or what was going on. It was just like the people that were in my life and
Yep.
what was going on with that. And that to me is part of that meaning is, you know, being known and knowing other people.
Mm, yep. I like that. Boy, we just went deep for a second.
I know.
I love it.
I haven't even gotten through my whole whiskey yet.
As that one country song said, must be the whiskey. All right, switch over to Josh for a second so you don't see me pouring this whiskey because we don't have a branding deal with this.
Yeah, we got to get a local Colorado Springs brand next time.
Yeah, this whiskey's terrible.
Yeah, it's
It's
awful.
not even made in Colorado. So I'm just
It's
gonna pour
probably
myself
distilled
some here.
somewhere in Indiana and then shipped to Kentucky.
Exactly. But you can zoom right in on that logo there on that glass. That's real nice. That we can promote.
Yeah, that we Wolf and Key Marketing, we can promote
Yep.
that.
Fine Crystal Glasses by Wolf and Key Marketing. Just kidding, they're made on Etsy. Anyways, let's see. Oh, okay. Here's where we need to go next. So
I have a feeling I know where.
you probably know. I grew up in the world of Adventures in Odyssey. And some people listening to this podcast will know if you grew up evangelical or you've been in town for a long time, you'll know what Adventures in Odyssey is.
Yeah, say like late '80s through the '90s and early 2000s.
Yes. Yeah. For me, the heyday was like mid to late 90s.
Oh, okay, wow, all right.
Yeah. Something like that. It's like when I was really listening to maybe early 2000s as well.
Okay,
We would road trip back and forth from Colorado Springs back to Chicago area where I grew up. And I mean, we'd buy the books. Before we went, we'd get the whatever one we didn't have, the huge book of cassettes.
yeah. Cassettes or CDs?
Cassettes.
Yeah, all right.
Cassettes. And
They
I
were
guess we had CDs later on,
well, they
maybe
were
late 90s.
producing cassettes way longer than people were probably using them. Past same with CDs for that
Yeah.
matter too,
Yeah, right. They,
but
they could have
it's
stopped
all
for
right.
that.
We listened to cassettes when I was a kid too.
Well, right now, I wish they were on Spotify with everything else. I would probably still go listen to it and see what it's like. Anyways,
It's
so
on iTunes, I
is
think.
it? But
Yeah,
like you got to buy it,
you gotta buy it, yeah.
right? See, come on, guys.
Or listen to the radio.
The what?
Speaking of things, way past our time.
That is vintage. You know, I
Yeah,
like vintage.
well,
Um, so I mean, yeah, that was my childhood, and I was like engrossed in it. Every road trip, every spare moment, it's not like we had all the TV and internet that we have now. It was like a limited amount of media, and everyone knows by now I was homeschooled as well.
yeah.
So even less technology.
Yeah, you could either look out the window or listen to Adventures in Odyssey.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and then come to find out, all the way up in 2020 or sometime when we first talked about this, come to
Oh,
find out you worked on Adventures in Odyssey back in the day.
yeah.
I'm like, what? So, dude, blew my mind.
Yeah, I think we had, like, known each other for a while, but, like, working here at the
Yeah.
Wolf Den, I think it was, like, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years before,
Oh,
we
you're
even
right, it was
because
longer.
it was like
One day.
past an uncomfortable amount of time.
Should have known this by
I know.
now, but one day you were like, "Yeah, back when I was working on Adventures in Odyssey."
Well,
And I was like, "What?"
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was such a niche thing that like you had
Yeah.
to be like growing up in like not even just the evangelical church, but like the sheltered side of evangelical church and
Yeah. I'll
familiar.
admit it, guys. I'll admit it. I'll admit it. I don't care.
Oh, same, same. And and so like a lot of times like I'll talk about early on it was like kind of in my career it was like my experience, and so I would talk to people like, "Oh, I work for this show Adventures in Odyssey," as like their lead graphic designer, and not a lot of people outside of the bubble like knew what that was, and so I was just
Yeah.
like I'm at a conference. It's not that like I'm ashamed of working on it or anything. It's just that I'm at a conference and then I'm having to explain like, what the show is, and it's like not even worth the like conversation time, like cuz you may have like
Yeah.
2 minutes to talk to somebody, maybe 10 or
You're like,
it's
eventually,
like
I worked on this show.
yeah, so you just
Never
kind of
mind.
like work it in generalizations that make sense to the person that's doesn't have a clue what it is, and so it was not intentional, it was just like, I don't assume everybody knows it, so
Yep. Yep.
especially in the circles that I'm in now, so, yeah, so, when let's see here. So, I got married really young at 19. I'm still married to my wife almost, yeah, 24 years later,
Fantastic.
and,
Props to you
we
guys.
had a kid a year later, and then another kid 14 months after that, and that lit a fire up my butt to go back to school, and work on a visual communications degree, and I was very fortunate within a year of going back to school, um, that I got a job at Focus on the Family here in town, and within a month, I was designing new Adventures in Odyssey graphics and packaging.
Did you get hired for that?
No,
Not even for
I
that?
got hired as a production artist, and then I was doing, like, repackaging of old, Adventures in Odysseys, like, almost right away, and
Oh, okay.
so, like, we were literally some of the artwork was, like, 20 years old at the time, and so they didn't have, like,
Oh.
the physical painted piece because that's what they had back then, and so
Oh.
I was scanning I was doing, like, the production artist type work of scanning in literally the old packaging with all the printed with the halftones, it was gnarly,
Oh, wow.
and then I would have to do, like, recreate the typography, and then some of that was, like, so old, like, the title of, like, what the episode was, and it, anyway, so I was doing, like, dumb, like, production not dumb, but, like, basic production art level work, but I was elevating it a little bit, and then there was an associate creative director like, "You seem to, like, have a passion for this, and, why don't we
Cool.
get you in on a project," and so
Wow,
I
that's
did.
cool.
So I'm like I had gone to school for a year at that point, I was on the job for, like, a month, and I was designing new Adventures in Odyssey, design and packaging, and then
Wow.
and I love like the kids market, always have, and that was just something of a knack. And so it blew my mind that there was something that I listened to and enjoyed as a kid that I could possibly work on
Now
it.
you get to
And I
work
was
on
like
it.
22 years old, like going, what? You
W
know,
Really? I can do that?
yeah. I mean, never in my, did I think I'd work, for highlights for children or Scholastic or Little Golden Books or Lego or other things that I knew, but, like, that was, like it put it in my head, that you could work on something that you were a fan of as a kid, and so
That's
then I went
cool.
on and really helped. It wasn't like a one-person effort. I mean, we had, like, a account, you know, manager, and we had a associate creative director, and then we had the illustrator that we would hire, and then but it was our team that helped develop the brand. I just was the lead graphic designer, so I was translating all that strategy into like, what does this look like visually?
Yep. Like
And
doing covers of the Cassette
covers,
books,
y-
CD
CD
books.
packaging. Yeah, it was
Yeah, yeah,
mostly CD packaging. Then
yeah.
they started like a podcast later on. So I did that for about like 5 years. And I mean, I did in-store displays. I did like merch, like T-shirts um,
Yeah.
like cups that they sold at the Welcome Center, and just all kinds of stuff that was needed, and helped art direct a website. And it was one of those things where it took about 2 years before the Adventures in Odyssey team realized, like, they said, like, this is the best it's ever looked, and
Oh, wow.
I can't take full credit for that, but it was just something that I was learning how to develop a brand and like set brand guidelines and then live with them for like a
Oh.
couple of years. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, great idea, but that doesn't practically work. And so I was always adapting and
Yeah.
evolving to like make it so that it was very fortunate that I got that experience, like literally the first job in the career. And but I mean it was I mean, like, there's just so many fun memories of that time just with the people and then just the nature of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
show. And um so if you aren't familiar with Adventures in Odyssey, which I'm assuming most people aren't, so is this popular radio show? I think it started in 87 or 88, so late 80s. And it was on Christian radio stations, and then they eventually adapted to like selling cassette tapes, and then as like radio stations started going away, they adapted to more like digital releases and that sort of thing. So they're still making new ones today, but different like voice cast and all that.
Yeah.
Um, but it was basically I don't know. They didn't really push. It was like they pushed how to be a good person, and life
Yeah.
lessons, and there was some like
For sure.
historical stuff. So it wasn't like they were. I mean, it was definitely like from the viewpoint of like the evangelical Christian world,
Yep.
but it wasn't always heavy handed. They focused on like good storytelling. Like, may not agree with everything now, but like there was some like really fun. Like they had this thing called so it was centered around Mr. Whitaker, John Avery Whitaker. So we're getting a little history of
The
Adventures in
wise
Odyssey.
I love it.
He
The
was like
wise
this
Mr.
older man who
Whitaker.
was a widower, and he ran this ice cream shop in the town of Odyssey. And do you know why it's called Odyssey?
No.
It's a place you ought to see.
Place you ought to see.
So it's like, so it's set in like rural America, kind of like mom and shop soda parlor is what he had.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple of adult characters, Connie and Eugene, that worked there. And then there was all these kids that would come in. And so it was just an opportunity they would all go through different situations together. And Wit was like an inventor, and he came up with this imagination station. So it was basically this machine that you would
It's a
sit
time
in,
machine.
and it could be whatever. So it's almost like the holodeck on the, Star Trek The Next Generation. So it's like
Yeah.
they would program all these adventures. So some of them were historical or some of them were, different setups. So I geeked
Dude,
out
it
about,
was creative. It
oh
was
yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
It was really good. Like, who were the people writing those stories? Did you interact with them much?
I did. So there were this was another like blowing my mind at like 22. It's like, you mean I like Paul McCusker and Dave Arnold are real people, you
Yeah.
know? So I'd have meetings with them
Whoa.
because they're always credited at the end of each episode. And
Yep.
and then there was a guy named Nathan Hubler, um, who is not a little about my age, maybe a little bit older, but he was a fan that grew up on Adventures in Odyssey. And then he was like the walking Adventures in Odyssey encyclopedia. Like he knows everything to
Oh,
ever know.
wow.
And he's written a lot of the shows since like probably early 2000s on, or late 90s probably, till now. And so I got to work with him. And then yeah, so I got to work with some of those folks. And then we had like this was years ago, but they had the 20th anniversary show. So I got to meet like a lot of the voice talent too. So like Chris, who's like the narrator at the beginning of the show, and
Yep.
hi, this is
Hi,
Chris.
this is Chris. Oh, yeah, dude, for
Yeah.
sure. And a
And
lot of
then
those are the same person
yeah,
doing multiple voices, right? I
yeah,
learned that later on. Is like
yeah.
the girl who does Connie is the same one who does Eugene or something.
Well, maybe somebody else. Like Eugene
Maybe.
was. So what's interesting is like what mad respect to Adventures in Odyssey. they actually got top level talent for voice, like, in LA, like, it's recorded in
Oh,
Los
okay.
Angeles. So you had like, when they came out in the late '80s, they were pulling people that were doing voices for, like, all those Disney afternoon shows,
Oh,
so,
no
like,
kidding.
Gummy
Same people.
Bears and, like, the original voice of Mr. Whitaker was Hal Smith, who was, Otis on the Andy Griffith Show.
What?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
No.
and then he had a prolific acting and voice acting career, and so he was the original voice of Whit until he passed away.
Whoa.
And then they later on, they developed a character called Wooten Bassett, I think is his last name, and he's voiced by Jess Harnell. Well, Jess Harnell was Wacko Warner, in Animaniacs, and I mean, that guy is prolific too. I
Oh,
mean, he's, like, was a voice of some of the like, one of the Transformers and, like, the Transformer movie series,
no
and
kidding. So
he's
yeah.
done, like, additional, like, voices, like, for, like, Pixar movies that are kind of in the background, and then they had a guy named Corey Burton who's also, like, a legendary voice actor. I mean, he was like General Grievous in the Star Wars Clone Wars. I mean, that guy's versatile. I mean, he basically will
Wow.
adapt to whatever is needed. And so I actually got to meet some of these voice talent, and like I talked to Jess Harnell, like who was Wacko Warner, who I watched when I was a kid, and it was just like
Mind
and
blown.
that was early on in my career. So it was just something that was like ingrained in me. And it was almost not accidental, but it was just like I just walked into that situation and was very fortunate
Yeah.
to work on that. Of course, I did not mention that, Wits, soda parlor or ice cream parlor or whatever it was called, Wits End,
Wits End.
which was a
The Wits
play on
End.
which was a play on, I'm at my wits' end, but
Oh, yeah.
there might have been, like, a lot of wits end, as in your butt jokes. My favorite was there was, like, legit marketing copy that was, "And then they discovered strange chemicals beneath wit's end," and I'm, like, in a real meeting
Oh,
trying not to
boy.
laugh. Like,
Uh-oh.
"Duh."
Everybody else on the crew is looking at each other like,
Like, "Do we say
"Eh,
something?"
well, we're not gonna bring it up this time."
Yeah. So there was a lot of fun laughs, and then, of course, I did that so long ago that I have since met adults who um, grew up listening to it, and I met this, one of my friends, Paul Twa, at, an illustration conference, and I don't ever like I said, like, I don't ever really talk about, like, working on he was asking me how I got into illustration, and so I was like, "Well, I started working on this, at this place called Focus on the Family," and his eyes got wide, and he was like, "I used to listen to Adventures in Odyssey when I was a kid." And he's like 25, and I'm like, "Oh, I worked on Adventures in Odyssey." And then I was like, as I was
You're
those
like,
words were coming out of
"Another
my mouth,
one?"
I was doing like the loose math of like, "You're 25." It was
Oh,
like, I worked on Adventures in Odyssey when you were a kid."
when you were listening to it. Yep.
Never was like, "Thanks for making me feel old, Paul." But like super
Yep.
nice guy. So we talked about that a little bit, and then he went back, and then he messaged me a photo of when he and his family, it would have been like 15 years prior to that. And it was like they took a family trip to, the Focus on the Family visitor center. And so there's this like attraction where you can record
Oh,
an
yeah.
Adventures in Odyssey episode. So
Don't
like
think I haven't done that,
yeah.
because
I
I
believe
have.
it.
That's for sure.
Which is cool because you get a script, and all the other, so you have like one character's role. And so I think there's like what,
Yeah.
2 or 3 parts or something.
Yeah.
So it's this photo of Paul and his sister in this booth from like 15 years ago. And I look at it, I'm like, I designed that poster that was on the wall. I
Yeah.
designed that cup that's sitting in front of him.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, yeah.
And then I met this other family who, I mean, they listened to it like in the heart, like they were young when I was designing it, and they were kind of raised on it too. And they're like, "You designed my childhood." I'm like, "Thanks for making me feel old." But it's
Yeah.
neat to like have a connection like that with somebody. So it's
Yeah.
super super interesting. Yeah, and
It's awesome.
all the other shenanigans that went on during that time. But uh,
Little did you know. how much of an influence you were having on Adam Morley, and that
Oh.
you would later be on such a prolific podcast,
Was I
People of Colorado Springs.
so I started designing in 2004. Were you listening then?
Yeah,
I mean, you would have been much older.
no, I was done with it by then,
Yeah. But
but
but there was still the history of it.
but it was still in my heart
Yes.
and remains to this day.
Like, I'm not that much older than you.
No, I know. No, not at all. Oh, that's awesome. Hmm. Okay, so we got a couple questions that we ask every guest. And one is, what's something you love about Colorado Springs? And then something you think we need to do better at. So I guess we should start with like, how long have you been in Colorado Springs in the first
So
place?
I moved here in May of 2000. So
Okay,
that is 25 years and counting.
that's
It
pretty
was a
good.
very different town back then.
Yeah, well,
It
I
was
moved here
half
in
the pop.
June of '99,
Oh, wow. Okay.
so about the same time.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
like Powers was not a thing yet. Like
No.
when I first moved here, they're like, oh, they're building a movie theater out on Powers.
Oh
Like
yeah.
literally, that was the only thing. And I still remember, like in the first month, like north of Woodman and Academy, there's a lot of residential back there still today, but right along the road, there was a lot more residential. So you had trees and I remember driving past a couple of times, like big trucks hauling away houses, like whole houses,
Oh wow.
and they
Okay.
were developing all that area where that Home Depot is and
Yep.
the Mimi's Cafe all the way north.
Well, was Powers there when you moved here? The road?
It was there, but it was
Brand
not
new.
it was not developed at all.
It was
Like,
probably brand new because in '99 when I moved here, it wasn't there yet. They
mm,
were moving dirt around, so it was like right before you moved here, they put that road in. I was
yeah,
riding my bike out there where the road is now, making jumps and catching snakes, right? It was the field out there. There
as you
was
do.
as a homeschooler does at that time. I mean, there was nothing out there, and then they brought in all these bulldozers, and I was like, "Well, this is ruining my fun. What are they doing?" And
So
they
now
put
I
in
know
this
where the
road.
hatred of Powers comes from.
Yeah.
They took away my sweet bike jumping road.
I hate that road. But yeah, they put it in there and there was nothing out there. And
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
what? Why are they putting in a 6 lane, what felt like a highway at the time? And yeah, little did I know it was going to be
Yeah.
developed and then way out there
Oh,
as
yeah, it felt
well.
like you were going to Kansas.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I grew up. Barnes and now Powers Road is the first house we moved into. And my mom still lives there to this day at Barnes and Powers between like Barnes and Stetson Hills.
Oh, yeah.
And I had no idea, but it was such a small town, and I didn't know the difference. I was a kid, but
Yeah.
it was a totally different town back then.
Yeah, and especially being out that way, you probably didn't feel like the the size of so one of the things that's nice about Colorado Springs that I do like is it's pretty spread out to where it doesn't feel like a city or an area that feels like it has almost 1,000,000 people living in it
Oh,
because it's spread out, and the reason why is it was a lot of little towns that grew up around each other. They eventually merged together. So you really had like the downtown area and then some of like the old North End. And
yep,
I don't know the full, you know, area, but it wasn't until 1983 that it's like 83. It was the early 80s. I don't remember if it was like 82, 83,
yeah.
84, somewhere around there. They decided we're going to merge all these towns together. And then this is now Colorado Springs,
I
which is
always
why
wondered.
you have like a smaller downtown for a city with almost like a greater area of 1,000,000 people right
Yeah,
now. Cause and then it was like, I remember when we first moved here, it was like 500,000 people. And I'm like, wow, this is a big place.
yeah,
And then it was, then it grew from there. Um, so it's nice. Like I have adult children and we were able to raise a family and there's like a lot of just great outdoor stuff. It's, feels like a smaller community than it is. And Um, I mean, it's changed a lot, I would say, in the last 5 to 10 years, especially the
for
last
sure,
5.
for
A
sure,
lot more growth, a lot of development for sure. So yeah, so there's just like lots of cool stuff to do here. And then like, about 10 years ago when I was started, I worked in house at a couple of places in their marketing departments. And then as I went out on my own, I started realizing that there's like a huge creative community here. A lot of them are siloed off into different areas and different
Yeah.
industries or communities or whatever, but there's a thriving creative community here that I really appreciate. And there's a lot of camaraderie in that creative industry. So it feels like all tides raise the same boats or whatever, as opposed to like
Yeah.
hugely competitive. Everybody's just trying to help out and
Yeah.
so that is one thing that I really appreciate. And I've been involved with a lot of like the AIGA and the American Ad Fed organizations, and that do a lot of cool events, and um, so they're fun. But like I was fortunate. I put it somewhere else. It's over there. But I was fortunate to do like a sticker of for the downtown Colorado Springs.
Oh yeah.
Um,
That thing's cool.
and so it was at a drink and draw with AIGA, and we submitted concepts. We just drew, and kind of like the last idea that I had was like, I almost didn't do it. You were at that one too, and you were like, please don't select me on your sheet of paper.
Yeah. Do not pick mine.
I
I
will
just had
not.
a couple of cocktails and started drawing something. Don't pick mine. Good thing they didn't.
And I almost like walked, and I was like, this one idea hit me. I just scribbled it down, and then I submitted it. And then I heard months later that they wanted downtown Colorado Springs wanted to like give me a little stipend to like finish it off. And it was the Julie Penrose fountain at America the Beautiful Park. And I've been here long enough to remember when that first got like, I think it was just like railroad tracks or something. I can't remember exactly, or like warehouses or something, but they
Yeah.
transformed that whole area to America the Beautiful Park. And then
Hmm.
it was the Julie Penrose fountain, and a friend of mine was like, "That's the Stargate." He called it the Stargate, but it's this cool fountain that that during the summer months water comes from. I mean, it's tall. I mean, I don't know how if it's like 50 feet or however tall it
Yeah.
is.
It's huge though.
Yeah, and there's like a little like pool area down below that kind of like drains all the water out, and so I took my kids there a handful of times when they were real little, so it was just kind of like special to do something official for the city of Colorado Springs. Well, downtown Colorado Springs, which is like a nonprofit,
Its
but
own thing.
its
Yeah.
own thing, not the city of Colorado Springs, but something official that got handed out downtown, of something that like my family and I were a part of.
That's awesome.
And so like, yeah, there's just some, yeah, and all the outdoors, and we love getting out and going kayaking, and different like lakes or whatever, and all the hiking. Like when I was in a little bit better shape, I used to do the Manitoun Incline.
Ooh, that's
Done that
rough.
several times.
That's rough. That's a fun one
Yeah.
though. I like
Yeah.
the pain of it. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty fun.
It's satisfying at the end, but you're like, how many more stairs?
Yeah, and then the false summit
Oh yeah.
that
That
the out of
gets me
towners don't know about.
every time.
I'm almost there. You're not almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of we've built a lot of memories over the years, and um so yeah, it was a great place to raise our family. And then I think just improvement, I think just affordability, I think that's just nature of like kind of where we're at nationally, but especially here. Like I saw home cost rising, 5 or so years ago, which is great when you're a homeowner. But if you're somebody that's my kids' age in their early 20s,
You wanna buy something
you want to buy
someday, not
something,
as great.
yeah, you have to be making a lot more money further down. And I mean, it's even harder for people in their mid to late 30s who are farther along in their career to even buy homes now. And then, rent, and so some of that is I don't know how you improve that, but I think what that does is that pushes more people out. So it
I think
doesn't
it's
cause the record-setting growth that we've had for literally the last 100 plus years.
yeah,
Because we used to grow from like early 1900s, every decade we would double in size. And then it took the last 20 years to double in size,
mm,
almost. So we've been growing as a community for literally like rapidly growing for like 100 plus years
yeah.
from what I've researched. So and we're still growing, I guess, but I don't know.
Still growing.
At some point, because like we were we were kind of like watching like the best cities to live lists. I can't remember who puts that out, if it's Forbes or I can't remember.
Well, there was a bunch of them like
There's a
during
bunch of
COVID
them.
and after COVID that were
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And we
these are the
were
top
ranked
10.
within the top 10,
Always.
then the
Always.
top 5. And then the most recent one I saw, we went from like within the top 5 to like 100 and something
Oh, I didn't know
in
that.
1 year. And the main reason was affordability. And I'm like, I believe it. I really believe it. So
Oh, I
that's
didn't
something
see that.
yeah.
Interesting.
And this is, you're going to fact check this, right?
Totally.
But it was a report and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. It was probably like we could no longer hide the affordability or whatever, because then it just becomes difficult for a family to raise a family here, or be a younger person or a single person to come here and move out from whatever situation you were in, hoping for a better life. It's like, oh, then cost is a big thing. So,
Well, I hope they do something about it. Like nationwide, this is a problem.
oh,
It's not just
100%.
here. Like,
Hmm.
this is a great place to live, so that's driving up costs as well. But something needs to be done on a nationwide level about the housing situation because it's expensive everywhere
Yeah.
compared to what it used to be.
Well, I remember, was it 15, 20 years ago, Denver went through something similar, and then all the Denver homes went way up.
Yeah.
And then we were kind of still like a best kept secret at the time.
Hmm.
And then we went through something similar. So while it is a national problem, it's also like our house, our houses and whatever else has gone up a little bit more than the average person.
More whiskey?
I need more whiskey.
Yeah, you do. Turn the camera away from me
But this is me
because
as like an
we're not.
artist talking, but I do I do care. I do care and try to pay attention to that sort of stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
because like I was like 24. We bought our house. Gosh, we bought our house 19 years ago,
Jeez.
and I was 24, and my wife was like, "We got to buy a house," and I was like, "I don't want a mortgage. We're not there yet." And turns out it was like the smartest thing we could ever done. It makes it now affordable to live here with what we're doing, because we
Yeah. You
we
wouldn't have
have
been
a
able to do it.
house. We wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. So,
I'm in the same boat. I bought a place in 2012 for very cheap, and then
mhm.
another place in 2019. And I remember buying the place in 19. It was a duplex
Mm.
for it went on the market for 350, a duplex.
Whoa.
And in 2019, if some of us can remember all the way back then, I was like, this is a lot. I don't know about 350. This is high for a duplex,
Yeah.
right? This is a lot. I don't know. I might lose money on this in the long run.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah, not at all.
Very lucky to
Yeah.
get into it at that time because it's double that now, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing some of the housing
But
going down a little bit, but it's still like
it's down a bit for sure.
not much, but it's still yeah, it's still tough for somebody
I
starting out.
mean,
Anyway,
it seems like a supply and demand thing. We need to really, this is just me going off on my opinions now. So
well, it's your
welcome to,
podcast, so
well, I guess,
I got some whiskey to sip on,
yeah,
so
we're drinking whiskey and talking about it. It's a supply and demand thing, like anything else. I mean, you have to incentivize way more houses to be built if you want them to be affordable. We need way more of them. And then the price will go down because they're not as scarce. Way
right.
more of them are for sale.
Yeah.
Kind of basic, but what do I know?
Well, we're building a lot. There's a lot more apartments showing up randomly in like parking lots of you know, the movie theaters and stuff.
True.
It seems
Tiny
like
homes, you
it's like
might say.
I would have never thought to put an apartment complex there, but here we are.
Yep.
But a
Yep.
lot of it is not necessarily homes. It's more like stuff that's for rent. Like
It's rent.
right next to our house, like we're in the southeast part of town, and it was an old like, wouldn't call it a forest in the sense of like the British term. There was probably like 100 trees there, and so now it's a forest. Um, but it was a smaller, like wooded area, and then they probably around 2021. It took them 2 years because it was during COVID, but they tore down that um the forest, and then like took forever. Like it was probably like a year and a half just getting the ground right. And then they put up all these houses, and this whole neighborhood is not to own, it's to rent. So like the cheapest like
Oh, wow.
one bedroom, like, there's like full units and then like duplexes or like
Yep.
single
Yep.
unit kind of things, and it's like anywhere from 1,600 to, if you want a whole place, it's like 3,000 plus dollars, you know? So it's not just, there's a lot more. I feel like I'm no expert, but it just what I've observed, there's a lot more for rent than there is to own that's going up.
Well, that's another trend. And I think it's with millennials and Gen Z and probably the next generation is they're not that keen on owning.
Mm.
From what I'm reading and what I'm seeing is they're okay with just renting a place. It's a lot of work to own and maintain a house,
Hmm.
and I know that for sure.
Yeah, you of all people.
Yes, I know it's no small amount of work if you want to keep it in good shape. It costs money, it costs time,
Oh, yeah.
and you know, it's not easy. So
No,
I
it's
think
not.
that's also a trend that's like people just want to rent. So there's a higher market for rent than own in some ways as well.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I haven't gotten into an old man yells at cloud moment yet. I don't think.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Getting dangerously close, but not there yet.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm always this far away. I'm always this far
Kinda
away.
happens in your late 30s, I think.
Yeah. For me, late 20s.
Oh, okay.
It happened pretty quick. I've always been called an old soul, so
Well, there you have it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, what
Well,
else did we miss here? What else we gotta cover? Anything else good? Trying to think of my list. You and I always have such good conversations all the time. It's usually at the water cooler,
yeah.
literally at
Yeah,
the water
literally at the
cooler.
water cooler.
Not I feel like there's not a lot of water coolers left
Yeah.
in the world, but you and I talk a lot at the water cooler. So I'm trying to think what else we were gonna save for the pod.
Well, I was mentioning, like, I got into a little bit of, like, my collection for little golden books, but
Oh yeah.
speaking of being an old soul, that's what triggered it, is that I do have an old soul too, and it's funny raising children. Like, my youngest son is about to turn 18 this month, so I do he's basically an adult. He has an associate's degree from college and a high school
Jeez,
diploma.
dude.
So
I don't know
I'm
if
like
that makes me feel old or young or what. Ooh.
but I noticed about, like, 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, he was starting to go through puberty, and we were, oh, yeah, it was when, that Jurassic, I think, was it the 2nd or 3rd Jurassic World trailer came out, where they were showing, like, a view of, it was just a teaser of, like, a view of, like, what it was millions of years ago with feathered dinosaurs, and, like, if you remember, like, the original
Oh,
Jurassic Park, we didn't realize that dinosaurs had feathers back in the '90s, and so this was, like, an imagining, and so we're like,
you're right. Come to think of it.
yeah, so there's a lot that we've learned about, like, dinosaurs and ancient history since then. I'm also a big history buff too. But so we were just blown away, like, what? Jurassic something has, like, feathered dinosaurs? And so
Yeah.
my son, like, I think the first movie came out in 2016, so he was, like, 7 years old, so he's, like, the prime age of, like, "Oh my gosh, dinosaurs," and he was just into Jurassic World. So they come out with the
Yeah.
second one or whatever, and it's like, we're like, "Hey, did you catch you know, the Jurassic," yeah, he's like 13, so we're like, "Did you check the Jurassic, eh, World trailer?" He's like, "Yeah, it's okay," developing that attitude, and my wife was like, "I thought you liked Jurassic." Before she could finish, my son was like, "Park. I like Jurassic Park."
Mom, it's Park. I like Jurassic Park.
And then he was saying stuff like that where
Dude.
I'm like, "Dude, we Lewises, like, we hit puberty and turn into cranky old men."
Yeah.
It's, like, almost instant. Like, there is no
Dude, it's
there's
a
no, like,
thing.
in between. We don't build up to it. It's like hormones and whatever, all the changes, we're instantly old men.
Yep. Dude, I'm totally that way. That's 100% true. Dude, Jurassic Park was one of the first, like, I guess it was PG at the time. Now it's more like a PG-13 type of
Yeah, they
rating, but it
started
was
doing
like
PG-13 somewhere in the, like, early '90s, I think, or
somewhere
mid,
around
yeah,
there.
somewhere
Yeah.
around there, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first like adult movie that I ever saw,
Oh,
I
oh,
think.
wow.
Yeah. And I was definitely pretty scared when I saw it the first time
Oh, yeah.
when that guy gets eaten off the toilet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
walls fall to all four sides.
Dude, I
Yeah, that
was
was
like
scary.
I would have been like 12 when that movie or 11 or 12 when that movie came out, so
Yeah.
it was still scary for me then too, as a sheltered,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know,
yeah. I
kid
don't think
growing
I
up,
saw
but
it till later on, but it was scary enough at the time where
yeah,
I
we
was
saw it
like,
in theaters, I think. But yeah, anyway, so like I've always had like all that to say I've had like an old soul, love old history. My dad's retired army, so half of my growing up years were in Germany, and so you just
mm,
have history. Like the town that I lived in the last 2 years of high school, Garmisch, in Germany, it's like in a valley in the Alps, and you're like, "Oh, that building's built in 1500.
yeah,
No big deal."
man, that's a
And there's
weird
like
thing.
castles and stuff, and so I gained an appreciation from history from living there. But so then when my kids were like, I'm because grew up in Germany, I didn't really catch a lot of like culture of the 80s, and growing up in the like 80s and early 90s, and so um I didn't build an affinity for little golden books as much. But then when my children started to get to reading age, they were kind of in like a resurgence. And so it was the Lego, or it was the sorry, the Finding Nemo little golden book that kind of like came out in 2003. That had recently been sold from Simon and Schuster to Penguin Random House, and or it was just, I think it was just Random House at the time. It was before the merger. So they were releasing all the old classics, so like Three Little
Mm,
Pigs and Pokey Little Puppy, and the Little Red Hen and Saggy Baggy Elephant, Train to Timbuktu. I mean, you could go on. I mean, been an American institution since 1942.
okay.
Um,
Mm,
and so like everybody's in America has probably heard of them or have experienced it or know the Golden Spine if they're not familiar with it. And
yeah.
so it has this deep, rich history. And so my friend Rob McClurkin and I, he's the guy I mentioned, the author illustrator I mentioned earlier. He had a small collection of little golden books. I kind of had what my kids had accumulated and what what I had bought along the way. But he was saying like, "Oh, I got this old book. It's from like 1958 or it's from 1962
Yeah,
or whatever." I'm
cool.
like, "Oh, I need to get that." So I would get like, just over the years, he would share some things with me. And so, but it wasn't until I got the Lego Little Golden Book series. So I was working on the first two around the same time. They were right back to back. My friend Rob McClurkin said, "I got a little golden book too." He's like, "I'm gonna buy a bunch of them off of eBay, like
Oh,
old stuff, like from like the 40s, 50s, and
oh,
60s,
cool.
because I need to get inspired because it has this rich history, right?"
Hmm.
So he buys like, I don't know, 4, 5 books. He texts me a photo and he's like, "Oh, I got this." And he and I have a affinity for Donald Duck too. And so there was like, he got me because there was like, he got like 2 or 3 Donald Ducks out of that. And I'm like, "Oh, I have that Donald Duck, but I don't have that one. And I don't have this one." So then this is like this is like 2021. So we're still like in the middle of COVID.
Mm,
So
okay.
we sort of kind of got this hobby of like, go scouring like Etsy and eBay and like finding these old books and then like
Awesome.
figuring out like every time we looked there was like you'd go on another rabbit trail and like learn more of like, oh, okay, well there was Disney but there was also Hanna-Barbera and then there was also Bugs Bunny and then there was and then there was like, oh, well, we like this illustrator Mel Crawford, so we're going to go find all his books. And so
Yeah.
we went back and forth probably for like 2 straight years, and it was like texting each other photos and then like, "Wait, I didn't know that book existed. Oh my gosh, that's really cool."
That's
So you'd go
awesome.
find that and then you'd find more because you couldn't. And you're like, "I found a really good deal. It was like $5 and free shipping or whatever." And then
Yeah,
you're like,
totally. You know
so
what?
we would just
eBay
egg
is
each other
like
on.
a
So like I said, like his wife and my wife cut us off. Like, you cannot buy anymore because it was like once a week there would be like a shipment coming to our like
yeah.
house, like a box on our door.
Dude, there's deals on eBay.
Oh, I
I buy
know. And then
tons of
you'd buy batch
clothes and
like
stuff on eBay.
I was
That's a
trying to
good
find
place.
I was trying to find like a collection of like Mel Crawford's one of my favorite illustrators from that time frame, and like he could do like Cub Scouts of America, Boy Scouts of America book,
Yeah.
and like Rin Tin Tin and Leave It to Beaver, like realistic, and then lean into
Yes.
like he did all the Flintstones books, so he could go like abstract and with shapes and whimsy. I mean, he was just such a versatile. And then he did a
Mm.
bunch of comics, so he had done all of the original Flintstones golden books, like when they were originally on air in the '60s. So he did three of
Whoa.
them. So I was looking at one of them that was a big golden book, the Pebbles Flintstone, and it was this lot of this one lady, Lisa Steele, and she was like a kid at the time, and there were Flintstones books and Jetsons books, and I was like, well, for the cost of the one book I'm looking for, I can get a
Get
8
a
books.
ton. So how many books do you have now?
So
You
there's
just I
little
picture
golden
you with like
books,
a wall.
basically. So I bought one of those like IKEA like cube shelves that's like 5 by 5
You can just keep adding to it.
to yeah, to essentially create a wall, because I'm like in the down my office at home is like downstairs.
Yep.
And so I needed something to shove, close me off from the hallway. And so I put that up, and I would say half of those were little of like my vintage kids book collection. And so there were little golden books. There was a thing called Tell a Tale, or Top Tales. It was all owned by a publisher named Whitman, and they did like competitors to the little golden books. So they were shorter, smaller books that didn't cost a lot. And so, I mean, I have at least 200 the last time I counted of all of those, and probably
Awesome.
150, 160. And I mean, I'm talking like vintage. I'm not talking like more recent, because I do collect some of the more recent stuff from like artists that I like today, or and there's some art, people that I've been able to chat with online that do they've become friends that have done little golden books and other cool books too. So, but it is, and what I appreciate about it is a couple of things, like this act of creating, this act of drawing and illustration is actually more ancient. Graphic design is relatively new, and that's something that I do, but it's relatively new. I mean, you really start seeing it in the 20th century. There was always, especially when advertising and marketing started getting built up in the
Yeah.
late 1800s and 1900s, then created this industry that needed visuals around it. But the act of drawing, the act of illustration is much more ancient, than, and so there's something about this tie to the past that these artists, and you read about like the guy that uh illustrated the Little Red Hen, Little Golden Book that we all probably
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
His name is J.P. Miller. He was prolific, probably one of the most. He illustrated over 20 books, I think, or 18 to 20 Little Golden Books, and then many other. But he didn't think of himself as a big, like he was like this amazing illustrator. It was all like, yeah, he's a children's book illustrator, and you're like, are you kidding me? This guy is like one of the most prolific children's
Wow.
books illustrators of the 20th century. So it allows me to feel like this connection to like, especially now that I've, one of many the people that have illustrated little golden books, it feels like I'm part of this like, historic, illustrators. Not that I feel like I'm fully worthy of all of it, but you I look at how they render shapes and how they illustrate a bunch of different things, from buildings to vehicles to like
Yeah.
foliage to everything else, and it's like they've simplified it down to its like purest form often. And so
Yeah.
one, like I learn a
Yeah.
lot by just studying it, and then you see like, oh, these people did multiple books and they're not all winners, you know?
Yeah.
Like, not all of these books in the history of little golden books or any of like their cousins or whatever else, not all of them are winners. So it encourages and inspires me, and
Yeah.
all at the same time. And it's so much better for me to like pick a book that's 50, 60, 70 years ago and seeing like a technique. So much better to have that in my house and like flip through. It's like, oh, I remember how
Yeah.
Holly Pratt and Norm McGarry illustrated, it's like a duo. Like they illustrated grass in this like Bozo the Clown book of all
Yeah.
things. That's one of my favorite little golden books, is this Bozo Finds a Friend book.
Bozo.
And it's so funny. It's so
That's
random,
great.
but it's like one of the best books of that era. And then you look how they render wood, how they render grass, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is so different from what I'm looking at,
Yeah.
on Instagram, because
Yeah.
they're thinking
Yeah.
about it as artists. And a lot of these people like even Mary Blair, who is known as like she was like a visual development artist for Disney, and a lot of people geek out about her, but she could do fine art. Like a lot of these people were trained in fine art. Like they could render, use watercolors and make it look pretty realistic. Allison
They're
Martin
doing this
Provenson.
style on purpose.
Yeah, and they're doing this like abstraction on purpose because it was the
Yeah,
mid-century.
that's talent.
So it was like they knew how to draw human anatomy. They knew how to draw plants and
Yep, yep,
vehicles and buildings to look accurate, but they're
yep.
abstracting it down to its and simplifying it down to a pure form.
That takes some skill, I bet.
It takes an amazing skill. So just having that rather than it's like a screen break and I can just go like, oh, let me pull this. And then, I mean, inevitably it's how I draw or it's how I paint, but it gets me a different perspective
Yeah.
from like these truly legends that most people don't know about today. Like they're not household names. I mean, even in the design community, most of the people that I love in the mid-century era are not the popular people. They're people that just had
Mm,
like amazing talent. Um,
mm.
and so I love collecting them, not just because it's there's the treasure hunt of like going to an antique store and finding it for yourself or finding it on eBay or whatever. There's the treasure hunt, that's fun. But then being able to like pull it off of my shelf and not look at a screen and like, okay, this is how I want to handle whether it's
Dude.
composition or rendering the illustration.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
they were masters at like simplifying things down to its purest form so that you're focused on what's important to that story in that moment. And they could do profoundly ornate things or detailed things, or they could simplify it down. And so it's a way to
Yeah.
see like it's made me a better, author. It's made me a better illustrator, like studying all of that.
Yeah. That's
So
really
that's
cool.
part of the problem is it's like it feeds my like career while also
Yeah.
it's easy to like get down. And I actually
It's a
own
write-off.
it's a write-off.
It's a
And I
write-off, you
I
know?
actually own a buddy, like my friend Rob McClurkin. And we did that for like 2 years of like going back and forth. And then it's so funny that it happened at the same time. And I was like, there was this place called Heritage Auction that had like a Disney of 100 years and event. And I mean, it was like a 3 or 4 day event with like thousands of like original artwork pieces. And I had found they were selling the entire interior of a little golden book, Yogi Bear
Oh, yeah, you mentioned this.
Christmas. It's a Yogi Bear Christmas book.
Yeah, I think you
And it
told
was
me about that.
illustrated by Bernie Mattinson and his wife Sylvia Mattinson. And Bernie Mattinson worked for Disney for like I think the late 50s through like 2023. He passed away in 2023 and he like worked
Hmm.
on anything from like, stuff from the late 50s, early 60s like development art and in Disney. Like I mean you're talking like way back. Like I
Yeah.
think like I don't know if he worked on Sleeping Beauty or not, but that came out in like 19 some 50s or 1960. Like from that area, Jungle Book, all of that,
Yeah.
all the way through Wish. Like he was working on concept art through Wish, like the latest, like which came out in 2023 from Disney. So he was
Wow.
like, and then his wife illustrated a bunch of children. They were both super talented and they worked on a couple of books. And this was one of those books. And I was like, I got to get this book. And I was like, I put my max bid and it was like $900 for like 24 pages of original artwork, 14 physical illustration
Yeah.
boards
Yeah.
illustrated in like 1962.
Dude.
And so I was like, I'll throw $900 on that. It was like late in the day. I get a notification on my phone. It's like, oh, it's about to come up. And I'm like, they're like 10 away. Like it's a live auction. So I'm watching it online. It's like 10 away and everything. And I see that it starts at like $900 for this bid of this original artwork. And I'm like, literally everything's starting from like $125 and then it's like $3,000 at the end because it's like,
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah,
original
yeah.
Mickey Mouse or whatever, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, well, this ain't looking good. That was fun.
Yeah.
And then it was so late in the day, it gets up to my piece and the lady that's running the auction is like, for $925, you can get a piece of you know, you know, history, Little Golden Books and Yogi Bear
She's kind of
history.
sick of it by now.
Yeah, she's kind of like, yeah, but going through
Uh,
like, and they
going,
going,
sold.
nobody bidded. And she like actually paused because like up until that point, there was always a bid on something. There was like no bid. And she's like, one final time or one more time, you can own a piece of history for $925. And then
Yep.
it was like, one last time you can own a piece of history.
And you're like,
it was like this awkward pause.
Get on with it.
And
Get on
I
with it.
probably,
Just sell it.
she's
Give me
like,
it.
okay, going, gone for
Sold.
$900, a
You're
priceless piece of history. And I yell, holy bitch, in the middle of the office out here. Then I had to explain myself to everybody around. So I got this piece of like,
That's great.
it came into my, I couldn't believe that I got it at all. And then I got it. And so it's in my collection. And then I let my friend Rob McClurkin know, and he's like, well, I didn't want to tell you, but he found a piece on eBay of one of both of our favorite Little Golden Books, period, by one of our favorite illustrators and one of our favorite spreads in the entire book.
Oh.
And he got it for I don't remember how much he got it for, but he's like, this is one of those things. He was like browsing eBay late at night. And he was like, his wife was long gone asleep. And he's like, this is one of those points where I'm going to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Not for permission.
She's going to ask about this later, but
which is why we've gotten cut off multiple times. And so he got it. And like, I was at his house like a year and a half ago and saw it. It was Lowell Hess was the illustrator, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves Little Golden Book. And it's when Alibaba comes into this cave, and the way that Lowell Hess illustrated, like he would do fabrics, and it was just like this ornate detail. And then there was like jars that had ornate detail, and then gold things that had just gold objects that had ornate details. And it's Alibaba coming in and seeing like all this riches in the cave, and it's like a 2-page spread, and he has the original artwork of that. And so then we're like,
cool,
this is getting a little too rich for us. This is not like $5 in free shipping. It's like we gotta cut each other off, or we're gonna both be like greeters at Walmart.
Yeah.
In our old age.
Spend all our 401ks on this.
Yeah, we're gonna spend all our money on this amazing artwork, and then anyway, we're like, okay, we gotta stop. We've cooled way down since then, but like there is that like connection to the past, and that both of us have done Little Golden Books, and just learning from.
That's a cool thing.
People that lived and worked, 50, 60, 70 years ago, that I think work is still relevant and still is amazing artwork. So
yeah,
I love collecting those old pieces. So
yep. Well, I'm 100% with you there. Old stuff is usually better stuff, if you ask me. And that goes for everything.
Yeah.
That goes for everything. Well, cool. We should probably wrap this thing up. Super good to have you.
Oh, yeah.
Josh is a longtime member here at the Wolf Den, doing incredible illustration work. Where can people find you? Give them your website and social and whatever you want people to publicly have.
So my name is super common. So it's Josh J. Lewis. So JoshJLEWIS.com.
Yep.
And then it's at Josh J. Lewis at I'm mostly like on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky these days. Sweet. So you can follow me with at Josh J. Lewis, or go to my website, and I have all my social links on there too. So if you want to, go to one place, and you can find my books wherever they're sold. So
yep. Awesome. Well, Josh is a one-of-a-kind talent here in Colorado Springs, the exact kind of people that we want to have on this show. Is like incredible talent that more people need to know about. So
I appreciate that.
That's how I feel about you, for real.
I appreciate that.
Cheers to you. We're both out of whiskey by now. That means
we need another pour.
Means it was a good show.
Yeah.
So
no, I super appreciate you having me on, and man, we covered a lot.
We did.
From Lego to Adventures in Odyssey.
It's perfect. I love it. Well, cool, man. Thanks again.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, man. Cheers.